Have you ever scrolled through your social media feed and felt a pit in your stomach after seeing a family post or an argument that just wouldn't go away? For many, social media is a way to stay connected, but for those experiencing cutoffs, estrangement, it often makes things worse. In this video, we are uncovering how social media makes cutoffs worse, estrangement and the emotional toll of social media, how to navigate social media when you're estranged, and finally, when social media can be helpful. Hi, I'm Marie Morin. I'm a therapist and a wellness coach. Let's get started. I've heard from so many of you that social media often adds fuel to the fire, creating more drama instead of resolving anything. Whether it's passive-aggressive posts, public arguments, or even just seeing someone move on without you in their life, it can feel like social media heightens emotion and deepens the wounds. When you're already disconnected from a loved one, social media can feel like a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it can give you a glimpse into their life. On the other hand, it can make the pain of estrangement even more difficult to manage. Today, we're going to talk about how social media can impact family estrangement. And if you're feeling distant from a loved one or struggling to reconnect, you're not alone. Let's break down why social media sometimes deepens the divide in estranged families and what you can do to protect your peace. Let's explore why social media can be particularly harmful when you're dealing with cutoffs. Misunderstandings are common. We can have ruptures in families. We've all seen it. Someone posts a comment, and the next thing you know, it's blown way out of proportion. On posts or texts, naturally, we miss out on body language, the tone of someone's voice, and other subtle cues that help us get the context of what the other person is saying. Without these, even a simple message can be misread as aggressive or dismissive. When families are already at a state of tension, misunderstandings can grow quickly, right? A small issue can turn into a larger conflict. And families that have ruptures can create this place of pushing people further apart. Even when family members are divided and tensions are high, finding ways to check out what your family member is doing and peering into their world is what I'm hearing from you. And these stories are heartbreaking, especially when family members are not invited to important life events. And my question to you is, can you do your grieving without making it harder on yourself and looking at evidence that you've been rejected? Maybe we can consider stepping away from social media so you can heal without the sting of knowing how hurtful the situation is. And you can pick and choose, okay, what social media is relevant and helpful for you. Another piece of how social media can worsen cutoffs are public arguments. One of the hardest things about social media is that it often turns private conflicts into public ones. A family disagreement that might have been talked about behind closed doors is suddenly cast out there for everyone to see, mutual friends and extended family, and this can be devastating. And that definitely makes things worse and more intense for a estranged family. This public exposure, the shame, can make reconciliation feel even more difficult. And when people are watching and they're commenting and sometimes even choosing sides, it could be horrible. It's harder to walk back on what's been said when there's a public record of it. Comparison and jealousy is another place where social media can worsen cutoff. So let's say you're seeing someone's happy moments and they don't want anything to do with you. It feels like a punch in the gut. Let's be real. You might feel left out, rejected, jealous. They may seem to be moving on without you. And on the flip side, you might hesitate to post your happy moments for fear of making things worse or having them feel like you're competing for attention or you're trying to make a point. For a estranged family, this creates a cycle of hurt and resentment, making it even harder to heal. So passive aggressive actions in and posts is another way that social media can really complicate things. We've all seen those vague passive aggressive posts that seem directed at someone but don't mention names, but it's kind of obvious but not obvious. Depending how obvious they are, these can feel like silent attacks or not so silent. And that ambiguous nature for family members can really be so hard to take. Somebody is definitely venting, and it could be facilitate direct confrontation. These posts usually end up widening the gap, making the estrangement feel even more permanent. And the second thing about social media and estrangement is the emotional toll that it can have on you. So there's a constant mix of all of these feelings: sadness, frustration, anger, the rejection, and sometimes you feel guilty. And social media can magnify all of these emotions. Let's face it, when you're seeing posts from your estranged family member, and maybe you're the one that's really out, it can stir up unresolved feelings, making it hard for you to move forward. It's like having this constant reminder of the distance, like a drip that just won't go away. And that reminder can make healing feel even further out of reach. For many, watching from the sidelines can be emotionally draining. You're not part of their life, but you're still seeing pieces of it. And that can make the hurt feel fresh again and again. And we've touched on this earlier. And again, I ask you to consider just stepping away to give yourself the time you need. You don't have to go look at their posts. It's a good idea to consider not looking. So the third piece we want to talk about is how to navigate social media when you're estranged. Now that we've looked at why social media can make estrangement worse, let's talk about what you can do to protect your emotional well-being. Well, naturally, the first thing is limit engagement. It can be tempting to respond to every post or comment, especially if you feel like someone is taking shots at you or there's passive aggressive stuff happening, right? But sometimes the best thing you could do is take a step back. Not every comment deserves a response. Getting into a back and forth on social media rarely solves the problem, especially when the relationship is already strained. For estranged families, picking your battles online is even more important. The second thing is unfollow or mute. If seeing posts of family members is triggering, it's okay to unfollow or mute them. This doesn't mean you're cutting them out of your life forever. It just gives you some space to focus on your healing and to get yourself together, okay? You can always reconnect when you feel ready and when things improve. For many going through estrangement, this small boundary can give you some relief and emotional clarity. And the third thing is think before you post. When emotions are high, it's easy to post something in the heat of the moment that you might regret later. Before you hit send, take a deep breath. Get yourself grounded and ask yourself, is it worth it? Will this post help mend the relationship or drive a bigger wedge between you and your family member? For people that have this rupture in their family, it's important to consider the long-term impact of your words online, especially when relationships are so very fragile and life is short. The fourth thing, use direct communication if there's something you really need to say. Consider reaching out directly. You can send a text, an email, or have a private call. Private messages or phone calls allow for more nuanced conversations where these misunderstandings can be cleared up more easily. And in families with these ruptures, direct communication can feel intimidating, but it's often the best way to begin the process of healing. You can do this. You can have these conversations. And when social media can be helpful, let's go here. It's not all bad news, though, right? Social media can also be a tool for healing thoughtfully. For some families, seeing positive moments that you maybe not were involved in for whatever reason, whether you cut off or they left the relationship, okay? These can spark this sense of, ooh, I really do want to reconnect, and some kind of action following that. But naturally, it all depends on what side you're on. And of course, there's those of you who are saying, wait a second, my loved one is, or my adult child is completely out. They've blocked me. They've told me no contact. This is a whole different thing. And I'm sorry this is going on for you. But there are people on social media who are passionate about helping families. And you can contact me if you want. You could send me an email. My stuff is available to you on my website. But creators that are devoted to helping families to mend and heal. And so these are a good part of how social media can be helpful. It's the stuff when you're kind of like, and some of you are doing it, and I hate to use the word, but some of you are stalking and you're looking, but you're really hurting yourself by doing this. When we see these glimpses to other people's lives, it can tell us, oh, you know what? There have been good times. I do want to work this out. Let's see what I could do. So for those who are walking through estrangement, maybe posting uplifting messages about understanding and reflection, nothing directed towards your loved one, can be a way to slowly rebuild trust. Just remember, everybody is different and every situation is unique. What works for one may definitely not work for another. So, does social media make family estrangement worse? I think it can, for sure. I think it's people and the social media, by being mindful about how we engage, the way we choose to protect our emotional well-being and creating space for healing, we're on the right track. But we have to control how we use it. If you're struggling with family estrangement, take a moment to reflect on, how is this really fitting into the equation of my life and what's good for me? And are my boundaries kind of in place? If you found that social media is a trigger for you, then maybe it's a good idea to set that boundary. If it's helped you heal, I'd love to hear your story. Tell me your story no matter which way it is. And remember, healing doesn't happen overnight, and every step you take matters. Leave me a comment and please subscribe. We need this channel to keep going. I need your subscribing so that we can continue to work towards building healthier relationships. See you in the next video.